All right, guys.
Okay.
So listen,
Looking
if we're
forward to it.
chatting and everything else, can you mute yourselves now? Because otherwise all sorts of things, sort of other feedback and things start to happen. So just make sure you're muted. You should all be quite used to all this now. Do you remember just a year ago, everybody was going, I don't know what to do. How do I mute? How do I do this? And so on. It's like second nature now. Okay, so Sam, is there anything you want to say before we get going?
Just in case somebody's just sent a message saying it's maxed out on 100 people, so people are trying to get in. So if anybody's messaging you saying I'm trying to get in, I'm just going to try and sort that out because I didn't realise that there was that was a cap. So I'm going to leave you to it for a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get on with it. Yeah, we should pay for the full one, so we should get it in. I don't know why that's done that. Okay. All right, guys. Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us, as I just said. What Sam normally says, she's going off to sort this, but she normally says at this time that some of you know me very well. Some of you have done lots of stuff with me over the years and so on, and you know how I work. However, some of you perhaps don't know as well how I operate and how I work and so on. If you've got questions, if there's anything that you think, I'm really not sure about that, or a question or a point you want to make and whatever, what we've found as we've learned how to use this whole new world of Zoom is that what we do is if you put the question to Sam on the chat, if you say, Sam, or even if it's Sam, I've got a question or something I'd like to ask or whatever, and then she will know the right time to maybe interrupt me or come in and whatever. Other than you trying to interrupt me, it's easier if either Sam or Fiona or Jess are doing that. So if there is anything, then just do that. Otherwise, if it's just a general question, it doesn't have to be answered at that moment. Then in which case, then what we can do is we'll just ask the question and we'll deal with it at the end. Yeah, and we'll deal with it when we come to the end. But if there's anything that's really specific and you think, I really want to make this point or I really want to ask this question right now, then rather than go off mute and interrupt, which gets really messy, send a message to the chat. Sam, Jess, or Fiona will pick it up and either respond to you or find the right time to interrupt me and do it that way. Okay, so that's cool. All right, now just bear with me 2 seconds because I just need to get this ready to go. I'm going to take you through a little presentation so you don't have to stare at my ugly mug for an hour or so. I'm just going to share now the screen and hopefully you can all see. Sam's not there at the moment, so Fiona or Jess, can you just confirm to me that the screen's showing as it should do?
Yep, it's showing.
Thank you. That's the one thing that Zoom don't do well, is they don't show you what other people can see. All right. Lovely. Cool. All right. So when we were putting this together, I wanted to make sure that there was some really relevant information for you. I think every time we've sort of popped up in this last year, what we've always tried to do is make sure that we come online, whether it's just social media, whether it's Zoom and things like that, and we've focused a lot of our work on Zoom. I think I was muted then. When we've got something relevant to say, when we've got something, something that we think is going to be worthwhile for your time spent. It's understandable. I'm seeing so much stuff all over social and so much stuff. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm getting to the point where I'm like, enough. And what we've tried to do is sort of be there when we think we've got something worthwhile, something relevant, and something that can help and so on. And we felt that this was a really good time for both yourselves and for us as well, as we sort of move forward. Now, I appreciate, obviously, we've got some Irish here as well, and appreciate that your path isn't as clear as we were just talking. But, whether it's mid-May or, God forbid, longer than that or whatever, the one thing we do know, and I'm sure it's the only thing you are keeping hold of, is that we will be out of it. you know, there is at some point we will be out the other side of it. And that's very much what I want to be focusing on today. Not now, not what's going on now. I want to talk about the future, you know, and we've called it Kickstart Your Business for Growth. You know, the pattern, we all know the pattern because we've been through it. And whether it's going to happen in Scotland next week, Wales has already happened, Scotland next week, England the week after, Ireland whenever, whenever it happens, we know the pattern, we know what's going to happen. And that is you've got some lunacy organizing right now. You've got some lunacy in the first few weeks of trying to manage it all, and clients blackmailing you, God knows what else to get in, and so on. But then what we know from the first time as well is it will then settle down. By the way, just a quick one here. You know, hopefully you've worked this out for yourself, but one of the big lessons that I've heard from people going into this second bounce back is not to cram everybody in the first 3 weeks. To actually, you know, not put yourself through that lunacy, and make sure you spread it, and then you won't have this 3 weeks of lunacy and then 3 weeks of nothing. You know, if you haven't worked that one out for yourself, I'm sure most of you have, but if you haven't, then that's something to take on board. But you know, we know the pattern, and yes, it's slower in Ireland because of the rollout. Here we're moving very fast. I'm not being positive here. I'm being practical. I cannot see, with the vulnerable vaccinated, why we would ever have to go back into a lockdown again. Yeah. Aside from another this happening again one day, which God forbid. But you know, putting all that aside, you know, that's another game altogether. You know, I cannot see how anybody could justify it. You know, I haven't liked it, I haven't enjoyed it, but I've accepted it because people are dying, because the hospitals are overflowing and they can't handle it, and so on. You know, in the peak of I think it was February, I was talking to a friend of mine whose daughter's a doctor in a hospital, and in her hospital alone, they had over 200 people dying a day. I mean, it's like insane. And so on. So, yeah, when all that's happening, well, you know, if I've got to make sacrifices, if I've got to shut my business and, you know, make sacrifices and go through this pain and whatever, then that's how the world works. That's life, you know, and so on. But if that isn't happening, you know, if people are vaccinated, and yes, people are still getting it, but it's not, you know, that people are dying and the hospitals are overrun, I cannot see how anybody could justify shutting the economy down again. So I'm as confident as I possibly can be, and I mean very confident, that whenever it happens, Ireland, when it happens, next couple of weeks for us, this really is the beginning of the end. We have got to stop thinking short term, which is understandably, we've all, you know, every single one of us has been short term for the last year. You know, we're all thinking short term. We're thinking about next week. We're thinking about next month. When will we get back? It said everything's short term. There's no other way. But we've got to switch that to medium to long term. We've got to make that shift. And what I'm saying, I guess, is that yes, I totally understand you've got a period of short term yet to come, the next few weeks. But as soon as you possibly can, excuse me, you've got to make that mind shift for you and your business to medium long term. And I totally believe that, because if we get stuck in a short-term mentality, then we won't be able to take advantage of the opportunity that actually this has given us. You know, I've talked about this at length. I'm not going to talk about it anymore, but you know, the industry is you know, has a better reputation right now than we have had for a long time, etc., etc., etc. And we've got a great opportunity to build and grow. But I think if we're still in a short-term mindset, then I don't think I think we'll lose that opportunity. So I truly believe it's critical that we do that for all of us. You know, my business, your business, we're all in the same boat. before this year happened and this craziness happened, we had a marketing process, if you like, that we used to use. We used to call it an evening with Alan. Sometimes it was a day, but just for simplicity, we call it an evening with Alan. And what we would do, it would be a way to get people to come together and see what we can do to help their business, their goals, and their future. Now, we're going to talk about it in a moment because it's something part of the presentation, but we've always been a company that's authentic, and we don't like to con anybody or pull the wool over people's eyes or anything like that. It's not how we do things. And so when we did that, when we used to run those sessions, we used to be completely upfront and honest and say, look, this is how it's going to work, right? I am going to give you solid content, worthwhile, solid content for free. It's not going to cost you. Come to this evening. I'll give you an hour or so of great content, completely free, stuff that you can walk away. I might never see you again, but it's stuff that you can put into action and make a difference to your business. And I'm not going to charge you for it. All we ask in payment, so to speak, is that you give us the last 20 minutes, the last 15, 20 minutes, when we can share with you the stuff that we do at the Fantastic Hairdresser that can help you achieve your goals and grow your business. And that's it. It's as simple as that. And that's what we've always, and how we always operated. Well, obviously we haven't been able to do that for a year, and we haven't been able to run like that. And equally, we felt that through this year, that wasn't our role. That's not what we were here for. Our role was to support, to give information, knowledge, education, do whatever we could in that session. But you know what? We're no different to you, to any business out there. All of our businesses have got to get back to business, and we're the same. So with integrity and authenticity, I'm saying to you that in the next hour, I'm going to give you solid content. Hopefully you will stay with us for the last 15, 20 minutes when I can show you something that I think you'll find very interesting, how we can help you to move on and focus on the future. So basically, that's what we're going to do. Okay. 5 critical questions then to kickstart your business for growth. Some of you know me very well, so some of you will have heard this one a few times. Where you put your focus is where you get your results. That's not just a throwaway line from me. It's an absolute core belief. I know it to be true. Where you put your focus is where you get your results. But as I always say to people, if you accept that, and by the way, I'm not even talking about the spiritual universal energy message there. That's another message. I just know that when I focus on something, I'm more likely to get a result from it. I think I wrote about this a while ago. My dog is obsessive about tennis balls. Who knew there were so many tennis balls lying around? Because he finds them wherever. Every walk, he will find a tennis ball somewhere. So I would never have known there was tennis balls lying around because I wasn't obsessed about them. I wasn't focused on them. He's focused on them. He sees them everywhere. It's as simple as that. The example I always use is if you're buying a new car, you see that car everywhere. Where you put your focus, where you get results. Now, assuming you're with me on that, then you've got to accept the flip side. If you put your focus in the wrong place, you will get the wrong results. It's if you accept that where you put your focus is where you get your results from. What if you put your focus in the wrong place? You will get the wrong results. It really is as simple as that. And I really do feel that as we're getting ready to reboot, to move on, we've got to have our focus in the right place. And that's what I meant about thinking midterm and long term and not just short term. That for me is absolutely key and absolutely critical. So I called this 5 critical questions to kickstart your business for growth. So what are these questions? Well, number 1, seriously, you've got to sit down and ask these questions of your business. Number 1, what makes you stand out from the crowd? Look, everybody, every single business. Those of you that worked with me before, you know, when I talk about marketing, you know, and I talk about who's your competitor, it's not just other salons. Actually, it's every other business. Well, there's never going to be a time when everybody, every business is going to be after your customers' money. Every restaurant, every bar, every clothes shop, shoe shop, bag shop, literally everyone is going to be after your business. Gyms are going to be going, no, come and start a membership. Everybody is going to be after your client's money. So it's not just standing out from the crowd in the salon industry and all the salons that are around you. I mean, that's critical. You know, I always say, if you just, you know, even as a stylist, you know, if you take a moderate town with 10 salons, and they've got just 5 stylists each, that's still 50 hairdressers for a client to choose between. How do you stand out from those 50 hairdressers? How do you stand out from those 10 salons, 20, 50, 100 salons in some cases, more? How do you stand out? Why should a client come to you? Put your ego aside, by the way. You know, put that aside for a second. Why should I, if I'm your client, why? Look, I've got this money to spend. I mean, that's the one advantage, is that a hell of a lot of our clients have got money to spend. Yeah, they have got some money to spend because they've not been able to spend it on anything else. So people have got money to spend, but why should I spend it with you? Because I used to spend it with you? Maybe actually this has given me the chance to break away from you, because I've kind of felt embarrassed to do so, but I felt for a while that it's time to try a new salon, but I've been embarrassed. Maybe you've got to tempt me back. Maybe you've got to get new clients. Of course you have. Why should I give my hard-earned money to you? Why should I come to your salon when there's other salons around that will do my hair well? Now, by the way, I do hope you take the opportunity, and I do believe there's going to be an opportunity to actually start something I've been talking about for a long time, start bringing haircuts back into the salon and start cutting people's hair rather than just doing one length trims and, you know, a bit of forward graduation and a nice blow dry. Because when that is, you know, as that became a trend, then even our technical skills weren't enough to stand out from the crowd. You know, because what's the first thing you teach a young hairdresser? One length haircut, for God's sake. You know, if people can't do that, then, you know, the industry's in a right mess. So the trouble is that we're all giving good service. We're all doing good hair to the level the client is looking for, and so on. How do we stand out from the crowd? How do we make ourselves the salon of the business that people say, I want to give them my money? That has to be the big question. That's got to be your start-off question. And you know, this is a reboot. I use the word reboot. It's a reboot for the industry, but it's a reboot for your business, for you. It really is an opportunity. Don't waste that opportunity. You know, you've pressed the pause button. Don't just press play and go back. I mean, this kind of was picked up. I've seen it used so many times. It's sort of, you know, you can't sort of stick your hand. I mean, not just in our industry. I've seen people, things viral, don't they? And they pick up. I think I was possibly one of the first people to say it because I said it so fast. I think I said it literally in the very first week of this whole thing. And I said, the real tragedy, putting aside human tragedy, obviously, the real tragedy of this whole year is anybody or any business that basically comes out of it the same as we went in, because then you missed an opportunity. And you've still got a chance. So, you know, in terms of really pressing that pause button and saying it's time to reboot, this is the time. This is now the time for you to say, what's going to make me stand out from the crowd? You know? And look, there's people. There's never been a more level playing field, has there? Never. You know, there are incredibly experienced big brand names on this webinar. You know, when we were doing Inspirational Minds, talking to people like Adam Reed and people like that, you know, I mean, icons in the industry, every single one of us is in the same place. In other words, just because, I'm just saying you, Rossa, because I can see you, but just because, Rossa, you had an amazing business with a great reputation, etc., doesn't necessarily mean that is what is going to be the case next year, and that what people want, and that someone else, while you've been working away, someone else has created a business that is going to rival yours once we get back to normal, etc., etc., etc. You know, that's not just Russell as anybody, but basically that's where we are. We have to recognize that the whole landscape will be different. And you know, I know salons that have lost clients purely and simply because, you know, I was talking to someone, literally a neighbor of mine, that said, you know, I used to go into town. I live on the, you know, in West London, not Central London. So I used to go into Central London to get my hair cut. I never knew that they were talking about a salon local here. I never knew they did late nights. So now that I know they do late nights, I don't need to go into town. That's someone's lost that client, not because they've done anything wrong. That's just a shift in the landscape. So be very clear that, you know, who you were maybe won't necessarily set you up for the future anymore. And we've really, all of us got to, me too, all of us, we've all got to take this, press the pause button, stop and go, okay, let's rethink, restructure, reboot my business for the future. Now we're through this, you know, I've now got to start to think about the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years of my business. Not just when are we coming out of lockdown. That's what I mean. Number 2, are you delivering your promise 100%? You know, don't fall into that trap of over-promising, under-delivering. That will lose you a customer like that. We'll talk about that more in detail in a moment. Is your business financially viable? Pretty obvious, that one. But I think that's a really important question to be asking, because I know so many businesses in this industry that aren't actually financially viable. Are you turning followers into fans? And finally, are you doing all of that consistently? Those are the 5 questions. We're going to go through each of them now. All right. What makes you stand out from the crowd? There's so many different things, but I think we've got to realize that things, you know, your lovely salon, even your skills, you know, your customer service. I mean, one of the things that came out of, you know, this situation is when all the things were taken away, you know, what were we left with? All that stuff is great. But the problem is it won't stand you out from the crowd because it's too easy for the crowd to copy, to do it. Even if you come up with a new idea, and there's only so many new things you can think of, there's only so many new things you can do that are different. But all of a sudden, you know, you come up with something, oh, we're going to do this. And then it's too easy for someone to copy you. There's very few really creative ideas that are going to be radically different that someone can't copy. How are you going to stand out from the crowd? Again, please remember, the crowd isn't just other salons. It's everybody who is going to be after your client's disposable income. Your culture. It's who you are. That's what will make you stand out from the crowd. That is what makes you stand out from the crowd. It's what you stand for and what you believe in. I think you all know me well enough to know this is not an arrogant comment, but we've got, well, I think at 9 o'clock this morning, we had 250 people signed up for this. That's probably increased even in the last couple of hours as we moved it forward. How does that work? How do we, Fantastic Hairdresser, get 250 salon owners to sign up for this? I'd like to think it's because you believe in us. You know who we are. You know what we stand for. You know us. You know the Fantastic Hairdresser. You trust the Fantastic Hairdresser. There's lots of people offering the stuff that we offer, loads of people offering. But what you know with the Fantastic Hairdresser is you know what you're getting. You know what we believe in. You're fans. You buy into it. You buy into our culture. It's not because we're doing a Zoom. Loads of people are doing Zooms. It's not because we're on social. Loads of people are doing that stuff. No, the reason why we can get 250 people plus to sign up for something like this is quite simply because of who we are. I don't mean that arrogantly. I'm just talking about our culture as a business, as a company, as a brand. And ultimately, your culture is your brand. And I thought if you were subscribed to Inspirational Minds, you will have seen Adam Reed and Sean Dawson talk about this brilliantly. And they talked about the fact that, you know, what is a brand? And a brand isn't your brand. It's not a name. It's not a logo. It's not even the decor of your salon. It's not anything. It's your culture. It's your belief system. It's who you are. And I totally believe that that's the thing that will make you stand out from the crowd. That's what will help you stand out from the crowd. So how do you really develop this and start to work on this? Well, the first step is know who you are, because ultimately your culture is you. And at the moment, I'm talking predominantly to salon owners. You've all got teams that you'll be working with in this and so on, but let's start with you, because it's your business. It's, you know, who are you? Who are you? What do you stand for? What do you want your business to be? What are your dreams and goals and ambitions? It's your business. How do you picture it? How do you see it? You know, that all of that needs to be wrapped up and become, this is who we are. Because that's what people will buy into. You must have heard this before. People buy people. Yeah, people buy people. So when a brand becomes you, I don't mean your name, by the way, but when it becomes you, when it becomes all that you embody, all that you believe, that's what people buy into. That's what people will say, actually, you know, there's loads of places I can spend my money, but I trust these guys. These are the people I trust, you know, and I trust them not because they've been around a long time, not because they've got a big salon, not because I know their name from before. I trust them because of what they believe in. Think about in life. Why do you trust someone? Why do you, a friend, a family member, why do you trust them? Because you believe in them. You believe, you subscribe to their own beliefs. Now, by the way, from a marketing point of view, just remember, you know, it's the golden question in marketing. And you know, what's your target market? And the amount of times I ask that question in this industry, and people say, well, everybody. And I say, look, we're not talking about that you're going to turn someone away. You know, you're not going to have a bouncer on the door saying, sorry, you're not our target market. That's not what I mean. Of course, you will do anybody's hair, but ultimately, what's your target market? You know, who are you really? You know, who are you aiming for, but also who is going to link to your beliefs? You know, that's the market. This is what I believe in. So would you agree that as the world's changed over the last few years, there is a percentage of people that don't seem to care about customer service? Yeah. It's almost like an apathy. It's like, well, you know what it's like, you know, I can't be bothered. There's people that seem to just don't care. But you're positioning yourself as giving amazing service. You've all had that client who's almost getting a bit frustrated, a bit irate because you're giving them a nice massage at the backwash, or it's like, will you just get on with it and cut my hair? And so on, because that's not what they want. So what do you do? Do you say, okay, we're going to skip the customer service bit? Or do you say, no, this is what we believe, and we accept that some people don't want that? But the people who are obsessive about customer service will love what we do. And that's what I mean. That's when you've got that synergy. But first of all, you can't market that. You can't promote that. That can't be your culture. That can't be what you use to stand out from the crowd if you don't know what it is. So it has to start with, okay, who am I? You know, what do we stand for? What are we all about? Now, what I always do at this point is I actually share a little bit of us. It gives you a chance to see, you know, for those of you, by the way, who don't know us so well, it gives you a chance to see what we're about and what we do and so on. But it's actually really what I'm doing is showing you the sort of thing you need to be creating for your own business in your own way. There's so many great stories of understanding culture. Many of you will have heard me talk about Zappos before. I'll mention them a bit later. I mean, they get culture unbelievably. In our own industry, again, if you were on Inspirational Minds, if you did that, Noel Colgan in Limerick, I love this culture. Right, this culture from Noel Colgan was be so good they can't forget you. You know, just that one line, be so good they can't forget you. Brilliant. You know, that's a brilliant culture, a brilliant understanding. That's who we are. You know, that's how we operate. That's how we think. That's what we do. We operate in this way. Be so good they won't forget you. They can't forget you. And that's it. As I say, Zappos has it. People have it. By the way, a really good thing, you know, use Google. Put into Google examples of great company cultures. And you'll get, and Zappos will be there, and Google and all that, but you'll get different stories and you'll go, okay, I'm starting to get this. I'm getting, seeing what we're doing. That's the best advice I can give you. Stick it into Google. There'll be great examples of other businesses, other companies, cultures, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to share ours, and I'm going to share ours so that it gives you a bit of an idea of almost what you need to be creating for yourself. So ours is quite simple. Do the right thing. That's our company culture. Do the right thing. Do we always do the right thing? No, I don't think anybody would be able to say that. We endeavor to. It's our guiding point. It's our compass that we're always endeavoring to do the right thing. I'd be lying if I said to you that we haven't at times messed up, screwed up, made mistakes, not always done the right thing, of course. And when we don't, by the way, we know we haven't, and we come back to it and we say, okay, we didn't do the right thing there. How can we learn from that? What can we do differently next time? But our compass, our culture, our belief is to do the right thing for our customers, for our suppliers, for our team. That's it. It's very simple. It's just 4 words, but for me, it encompasses everything that we believe in. That, you know, whatever we do, we want to do it in the best possible way. We want to do the right thing. Now, that's lovely. You know, that's a nice line, isn't it? You know, as is, be so good, they won't forget you. That's another great line. Zappos is make people happy. I mean, it doesn't get much simpler than that, does it? Make people happy. That's a lovely line, but that's not enough. And actually, this is where the mistakes start. A lot of people will do that. They'll have that line. It might be on their logo. It might be on their branding. It might be, you know, this is us. That's not enough. What that is like the pinnacle, but there's a foundations underneath that are supporting that, and that's where you need to put the work in. So let me show you what these are, and you would call these your beliefs, your core beliefs, your core beliefs. So these would be our core beliefs that support those 4 words: do the right thing. Integrity. Well, if we're going to say do the right thing is our culture, integrity has to be the first thing. So do the right thing for the right reasons, you know, it's very simple. And as I started this whole thing by saying to you, you know, I was upfront and honest and said, look, guys, I'm going to give you great content, but, you know, at the end of the day, we are going to talk to you about some stuff we can do for you at the end. But you know what, I'd rather, please don't, but I would rather you got to the end of the training bit and went, okay, I'm off, knowing that that's the case, than sit there going, oh, I didn't know he was going to do that. Oh God, you know, I please don't go. But I'd rather that than you do the opposite, and we've kind of pulled the wool over your eyes, so to speak. I want to be upfront, honest, authentic. We do the right thing for the right reasons. Courage. Embrace thoughtful failure. I want my team to have the courage to have ideas, to try things, to fail, to try something that didn't work. I want them to be able to take calculated risks and to move at a safe speed. Let me explain some of the key words there. Thoughtful failure, not sloppy failure. You know, sloppy failure, you didn't prepare, you didn't think it through. Thoughtful failure is I did everything right, it just didn't work. That's cool. That's cool. I'd rather that. Now, you absolutely have to embrace that, because otherwise, if you don't, your team are not going to engage. They're not going to come up with ideas. They're not going to be part of the culture. They have to know that they can put ideas forward or suggest things or try things, knowing that if it doesn't work, because it just didn't work. Again, not because it was sloppy, but if it doesn't work, that, you know, the house isn't going to fall on their head. That, you know, I mean, there's companies that actually applaud it. There's companies that celebrate failure. 3M is one of those. That's how the Post-it note was born. It was actually from an adhesive that didn't work, you know, and then they realized that actually it doesn't work. It sticks, and then you can unstick it, and then you can stick it again and unstick it again. And the Post-it note is a bit longer story than that, but the Post-it note was born from that, from a failure. But it's thoughtful failure. Listen, you have to take risks in this world. You have to have the courage to take risks, to try new things, to put yourself out there. Calculated, of course. We're not talking about jumping off a building, but a calculated risk. And then you have to move at speed today. You have to. And you know what? Sorry, Ireland, but I think we're proving that here. The speed we've rolled the vaccine out. We haven't got tied up in bureaucracy. We haven't got tied up in all the silly stuff. We just got on with it and made it happen. And it's speed. It's the world we live in today. It's a fast world. But the word I've added in there is safe. It's got to be a safe speed. But basically, I want my team to embrace those things. If you work at the Fantastic Hairdresser, if you're part of the Fantastic Hairdresser, it's about creativity. And it's about a belief that anything is possible with enough time. You know, time is your only limitation. I always say that. But by the way, this is a good time. I came across this quote a couple of months ago in some learning I was doing. I love it. And everybody I've shared it with has loved it too. So I'm going to share it with you now. This is the time to share it with you, because I think it's really relevant for all of us here. So many people make the mistake of overestimating what they can do in a year and underestimating what they can do in 10 years. Now, I'm going to slightly change that, because we're not normally as long-term as 10 years. But you know what I see in this industry? I see people overestimating what they can do in 3 months and underestimating what they can do in 2 years. Because the problem is when you overestimate what you can do in a few months, you get despondent. You lose your motivation. You think, oh God, it's all that and nothing happened. I did this marketing and I spent ages on it and it went out there. Oh, social media is a classic example. People start putting stuff out on social media and putting it out there, and I'm really working hard at it. I've got nothing. I'm getting nothing back. These people that have got thousands of followers have spent a few years building that, not a few weeks. Yeah, but the trouble is when you overestimate what you can do in a short time, you get despondent, demotivated, and you give up. But when you actually turn it around and you say, instead of recognizing and overestimating what I can do in 3 months, let's look at what I can do in 2 years, and start to almost overestimate what you can do in 2 years rather than underestimate, and recognize that in 2-3 years, I can radically change my business. I can't in a couple of months, I can in a few years. You know, I have people sit on courses with me and say, oh, but Alan, you know, I've employed some of the wrong people and what do I do and so on. And it's like, well, if you're thinking about what's going to change in a few weeks, unfortunately, nothing. But over the period of the next couple of years, with a different mindset, some of those people will leave. You will get rid of some of those people for different reasons. You'll recruit different people that will have a different mindset, that will fit your culture and so on. And in 2 to 3 years, you will have a completely different team of people that are committed to your culture, etc., etc., etc. But that's not going to happen in a few weeks or a few months. But if you have a medium to long-term mindset, you can change anything. You know? And I love that. Believe that anything is possible with enough time. If you're trying to make it change in a week or a month, no. But there is no reason why you cannot achieve any goal that you want, any goals you have for yourself, for your business. You can achieve them absolutely, as long as you're being sensible about your timelines. Compulsion. I love this word, compulsion. I used to use the word obsession, but actually compulsion. I'm compulsed to act. I have to take action. I have to do this. That's what compulsion is. And that compulsion is an obsession of quality. You know, fantastic hairdressers are obsessed by doing things right, do the right thing. We're obsessed by quality. Again, I mentioned Inspirational Minds. If any of you have, were watching or been involved with Inspirational Minds, we could have done it like this type of thing, you know, like loads of people have done, you know, split screens and, you know, and had these great people on Zoom or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that, because there's been some amazing stuff that's been done like that, concerts, all sorts of stuff. It's been amazing, nothing wrong with that. But it just didn't fit right with us. It just didn't feel like, if we were going to do Inspirational Minds, that's not how we do things at the Fantastic Hairdresser. Yeah, but it's COVID, it's lockdown, people will understand. I don't care if people understand. That's not how we do things. We're obsessed by quality, by doing the right thing in the right way. And so therefore, when we did Inspirational Minds, we did it in the best possible way we could do. And you know, and if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. We're driven compulsively, obsessively, to ensure that both our customers and our team love whatever we do. You know, whatever we do, we want you to love it. We're obsessed with it. We're obsessed with. Do you know what? I'll be honest with you. See, I think people know me, know what I do. I think you probably think that I pop up on here and chat to you. Yeah, you've all seen me do it enough times live and things like that and whatever. You have no idea. I've been here since 5 a.m. this morning. Not last minute. This was all prepared yesterday. I spent all day yesterday getting it all done and ready and prepared, and the slides and so on. So why was I doing 5 a.m.? I had to make sure that the camera was right. I had to make sure the sound was working. I needed to rehearse it. I've been through it, gone through it again, changed some slides, do some different things. That's the honest truth. I've been here since 5 a.m. Why? What on earth are you doing, Alan? Yeah, my wife says, for God's sake, Alan, what are you doing? I said, yeah, sorry, I'm compulsed. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed by making sure that whatever we do, you will, at the end of it, go, that was brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, and that's it. That's my obsession. Will everybody love what we do? No, of course not. That's not how the world works. But I'm obsessed with making sure that as many possible people do, and that's my team, and that's my customers. Exactly the same. That's my compulsion. And then finally, engagement. And obviously, this is very much about the team, but inclusion. You know, you've heard me say this before. It's not passionate people who engage. It's engaged people who become passionate. So I want a passionate team who commit to this culture. Well, then that has to start with engagement. And as I say, obviously inclusion first of all, but sharing information, making sure people know what's happening, what's going on. Obviously, constant learning, growth, and opportunities for everybody. Now, there's something I want to point out that you hopefully have started to realize as we're going through this. The result of this is for the customer. Yeah. So you as a customer of the Fantastic Hairdresser, hopefully you get the end result of this slide, this one slide you're looking at. Yeah. But actually this is for the team. I don't communicate that unless I'm using it in this instance as a training tool. We don't communicate that to our client, to our customer. I mean, we do in different ways in our marketing, but this is not a marketing document. This is who we are. And that is what will stand you out from the crowd. Yeah. And it's for me, it's for the team, it's for the company, it's for how we do things, how we operate. And then the end result comes out that you experience. So, as I go back now to where we were, your culture is your brand. The next thing is you've got to commit to that. I mean, that's all lovely, but at the moment it's just a piece of paper. Yeah, you could sit down with your team. By the way, just an idea, just a tip here. You need to create that with your team. But a tip that I've learned over the years about teamwork and democracy, I guess, and so on, is do it yourself first. But don't get so attached to it that you're not prepared to listen. but you need to do it first, because otherwise, kind of like total democracy, total teamwork can be a mess. It could just be all over the place. You know, you sit down with your team and try and work that out, and it can be like, oh my God, you know, you kind of need a guiding light. So start somewhere, get some ideas in your mind. As I say, do a bit of research on Google, have a thought, sit with a glass of wine, whatever you do, and just think about it and start there. But then you open it up to the team and start to discuss it and debate it and work it. But you need to start somewhere. However, even though if you did all that, you had a meeting with your team, you mapped it out, you wrote it all out, it's beautiful, maybe stick it on the wall, lovely, it's still a piece of paper. It's nothing more than words. It won't change a thing unless there's a total commitment to that culture from everybody. You know, literally from everybody. And of course, this is where a team issue comes in. You know, and you've got to get the team involved. And there will be people who aren't committed to the culture and so on. And you train them, you engage them, you do everything possible. But maybe down the line, over a period of time, you may have some tough decisions to make, because this is your business, this is your culture, this is who you are. And if you've got anybody in there that isn't operating in that way, your culture's there, it's not there. And then you're not going to stand out from the crowd. It's weak. The strong culture is a solid belief from everybody in that culture and everybody operating with it. And that's what I mean by a commitment to it. You have to have an absolute commitment from you and your team, from everybody, to that culture. I mentioned Zappos earlier. So Zappos, 50% of their recruitment process is based around their core beliefs. So they have 10. By the way, as I said earlier, you can have as many as you like, 3, 5, 10, doesn't matter. You know, we have 5, some people have 3, some people have 10. It really doesn't matter. It's what's right. But basically, they have 10 core beliefs. You can find them, by the way. Put it into Google, Zappos 10 core beliefs. And they have these 10, and they actually, 50% of the employment process, the recruitment process, is based on those. So, for example, what that means, if this was your salon, let's say that what I just went through is you. That's your business. That was your culture. What this means is that you are going to say, right, can this person cut hair, color hair? You know, do they conduct themselves well? Blah, 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 blah. The normal stuff you'd look for. So what Zappos are saying is we look for that, of course, but that's just 50%. Ring a bell, by the way, 50% rule. That's just 50%. They then employ the other 50% of this person is based on the core beliefs. So you're looking in an interview process for someone, if you were us, who has integrity, who has courage. You know, if I employed someone who doesn't have courage, who doesn't like speed, they're going to hate working here. Who doesn't like risk. We're a risky company. We take risks. We move fast. We do things, crazy things sometimes. Yeah. And if you're the type of person, which you're totally entitled to be, but if you're the type of person that gets stressed by that and worried by that, you're going to hate working here, which means you're not going to be a great employee. You're going to weaken the culture. You'll cause conflict within the team. You know, I'm actually doing you a favor by not employing you. You might be brilliant at what you do, but if you don't fit the other characteristics, those other beliefs, it's not going to work. You know? So know who you are, first of all, and then you need to build, and I've used the word build, it's not going to happen overnight, a commitment to that culture. And the way that you do that is with something that I call brand synergy. And what that is about is total focus in everything you do related to the culture. Everything you do, all your messaging, your branding, your team meetings, your one-to-ones, everything must be guided by that compass point. This is who we are. The people you employ, the people who don't make it because they don't fit into it. That's a culture. And it's a culture like that that will help you stand out from the crowd. And it's a culture like that that people will start to recognize, start to understand, start to hear, start to believe, start to trust, and they will be your customers for life. That's the first question you've got to ask. I spent most of the time on it because it's the key one, the critical one. But now let's move to the next one. And that's, are you delivering your promise 100%? So ultimately, your culture is your promise. You're saying, this is who we are. You know, I can do those, right, let's show you that slide. But if we don't operate in those ways, then we're not delivering our promise 100%. Now, I put here the golden rule of marketing. And although this isn't about marketing, I mean, ultimately, everything's marketing. But the golden rule of marketing is this: get the product right first. You don't market something. You don't go out and market yourself as amazing, incredible customer experience if you haven't got a 100% amazing customer experience. Because all that's going to happen is you're going to be over-promising and under-delivering, and there is no faster way to lose a customer than over-promise and under-deliver. You know, the other way if necessary. So that's why I've put the golden rule of marketing there. So when I talk about delivering promise 100%, number one, 100% focus. 100% focus. And where's that start? You. It starts with you. The minute you lose your focus on your culture and you've forgotten what it was again? Hang on, we wrote it out, didn't we? It was forget it. 100% focus from you. 100% focus from all of your senior team. You know, it works quite simply. You know, if you've got 100% focus and you're compulsed, if you're obsessed with it, then the next level down, your management team, for example, you know, will really know how critical this is. They're there. And then the next level down, the stylists, for example, and the team, they'll know this is important. This is important. And then your assistants and trainees and new young people coming into the business will be like, wow, this is really cool. This is important, you know? But what if you just think it's important? Or you just think it's critical? Then your managers think it's important. Then your stylists are like, yeah, whatever. If you just think it's important, etc., etc., it just weakens as it goes down. Of course it will. It starts with you. Obsession, compulsion. 100% focus, because you need 100% focus from everybody. 100% standards. You can't afford for 80% standards, 90% standards. You need 100% standards. Now, obviously, we don't have the time here, but some of you have done programs with me, and you know that in my programs, I go into much more detail on things like, you know, the critical standards and how they become like the writing down the, you know, 25, 30 standards, that like the writing in the seaside rock. They're always there, you know. But those standards, if you're not operating 100% of those levels, then what's the point of those standards? You know, what's the point? You've got to be endeavoring for 100%. You can't just, you know, I always say you can't just delight people on Tuesdays. We can't just have integrity on a Thursday. It's got to be 100% focus. It's got to be 100% standards. And the only way that works is with 100% training. There is no question. It's train, 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 and retrain, 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 retrain all of the time. It is the only way you can get that 100% delivery all the time. There is no secret to it, and it's not magic. It's training. And I'm not just saying that because we're a training company. But it's training, 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 training. You know, if you don't train people to do the standards, operate at the standards you need them to operate at, don't be surprised if they don't do it and they don't operate at it. It's got to be consistent. Yes, it's painful. I accept that. I know that. But it's the only way you build that culture that will stand out from the crowd. Okay, third question. Is your business financially viable? Well, that's an interesting one. Now, a few of you have heard me say this before. 80% of the salon industry is breaking even or worse. How can that be? Seriously, how can that be? That's got nothing to do with the last 12 months, by the way. I've been saying this for a few years. Yeah, 80% of the salon industry is breaking even or worse. The salon owner salary trap. Salon owner salary trap. And I'm not saying you're taking too much salary, by the way. That's not what I'm saying. Actually, in many cases, you're not taking enough, and I'll explain that in a second. But the salon owner salary trap. If you're a sole trader the salon owner's salary does not show in the profit and loss account. If you're a limited company, it does, but your accountant is probably paying you dividend, which means the bulk of it doesn't show in the profit and loss account. What this means is that when your business says, we took that much money in, we took that much money went out, that was the profit. That profit actually paid you in most cases. Profit in your business is over and above the salon owner salary. The only exception to this is if you're a salon owner who doesn't do anything. Now, if you work behind the chair, or even if you're not a hairdresser, if you run the business day to day, surely your salary is a legitimate business expense. Now, that's a tax thing. That's what your accountant sorts out. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the way you look at your business. And the way you look at your business is simply this. It costs me this much money to put that much money in the till. Your salary is a part of that. To leave it out is ridiculous. But the problem is when you put it in, actually now 80% of the salon industry is breaking even. Or worse, how can that be? That's making a loss. Well, actually, that's where I made the point earlier. In many cases, the salon owner isn't paying themselves the salary they should be paying themselves. And they're often doing that to keep the salon afloat. Because if they paid the salary they should be earning, then there wouldn't be enough money. In which case, 80% of the salon industry is breaking even or worse. That's what I meant. And that's what the salon owner's salary trap is. It's something we talk about in all our programs when we help you start to develop your business to be more profitable. Another common mistake is not understanding the difference between your business and your process. Okay, so any business has a process, and the process basically is you do something. So we provide training. You do people's hair or beauty services. A shoe shop sells shoes, etc. So you have a process that you go through, and what that process does is it puts money in your till. Now, in order to keep that process going, if you sell shoes, you've got to buy some more shoes. You've got to pay stock. You've got to the staff. You've got to pay the rent. You've got to do all those things. And so what happens is money comes in and it then goes back out again, and it comes in and it goes out again, just constantly in and out. It's like a cycle. Now, the danger is if you think that's your business, you're mistaken. That's your process. That's the process you go through in order to make profit. Because going through that process without generating profit is kind of pointless. It's a process that you go through to generate profit. Profit is your business. Start shifting your focus to profit. And that starting to understand that I've got this great process that I love. By the way, creative industries particularly suffer from this the most. Why? Because we love our process. We love doing it. And it's like, hopefully I'll make some money doing it. When you look at it differently and you go, no, I am lucky enough to have an awesome process that I love, but I need to make money because otherwise I don't have a business. I just have a process. Now that's okay at the beginning with enthusiasm and motivation and working hard to build my business. But after a few years, it wears you down and you're like, what's the point of working like this and doing this much as I love it if I'm not actually making any profit and I'm not even able to pay myself the salary I really feel like I should be able to earn. We've got to shift our focus. Where you put your focus is where you get your results, away from the process, break even, etc., and start to focus on profit. We have our formula that we operate at with the fantastic hairdresser. Actually relates to something I mentioned earlier about the don't underestimate what you can do in the future. We work on a 2-year plan. It's very simple. We say, how much profit do you want at the end of year 2? And you say, I want 50 grand. We then have our calculators, and we use the fantastic hairdresser calculators, and we work back and we go, okay, in order to make that profit, you need to put this much money in the till. And it's like, okay, now to put that much money in the till, you need to be doing this many more clients, this average bill, etc., etc., etc. And people go into panic and they go, well, how am I going to do that? So no, I'm not talking about doing that next week. We're not talking about that doing that next month. We're saying that's the profit you want at the end of 2 years, at the end of year 2. We're going to use year 1 to make those changes. We're going to make those changes in year 1. We're going to increase that average bill. We're going to get those new clients. We're going to change the team. We're going to do the things that need to happen. We're going to implement a training program, etc., etc., etc. We're going to change your marketing, whatever needs to happen. We're going to get your, I call it getting your ducks in line, so that you start year 2 with everything in place to make the profit you want to make in year 2. When you focus on profit, you create a different plan of action. Okay, the next question, number 4. Are you turning followers into fans? Are you turning followers into fans? Once again, those of you that know me, you've heard this one before. Last thing you need is more clients. Client, guest. They're all just names for customer. I always say my dentist calls me a patient. When I have to pay 200 quid when I get to the reception desk, I'm a customer. Yeah. It doesn't matter what word you use. Ultimately, we're talking about a customer. We use the word client or guest. So the last thing you need is more clients. What I'm saying is the last thing you need is more customers. What you desperately need is more fans. Customers shop around. Fans will never leave you. Now, this is something that will be very familiar to a lot of you, and I think it's going to be so critical in the next couple of years. The hole in the bucket. It's a very simple principle, the hole in the bucket. If you did 10 new clients a week for a year, that's 500 odd new clients. Yeah. Now, let's say they all come in 6 times in a year over a period of a 12-month, but they come in 6 times. That's 3,000 appointments. Let's say your average bill is £50 or 50 euros. That's 150 grand growth from new clients. So where's that? If you're doing 10 new clients a week on average, where's that money? There's a hole in the bucket. As fast as it's coming in one end, it's going out the other. And in many cases, what I see is that all of our new clients, all they're doing is replacing what we lose. If you plug the hole in the bucket and get new clients, you have a recipe for growth. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to work that out. It's easier, it's more cost effective, and will build you a more solid business when you focus on keeping clients. Now, do you need to market and get new clients? Of course you do. But I think sometimes we forget. We're so obsessed with social media and getting these followers and doing this and getting our message out there. We actually sometimes forget, actually, I need to keep the ones I've got. Now, most of us, our ego says, oh, no, we keep, just take that sum. 10 new clients a week should be giving you somewhere in the region of 100 to 150 grand worth of growth, year on year, every year. Just 10 new clients. Some of you are doing a lot more than that. Just do that sum and say, whether I like it or not, my ego might not like to accept it, but there must be a hole in my bucket. Yeah, and you need to look into that. We've got to turn clients into fans, as I said. And you do that with your experience, with your culture, everything we've talked about. This is all linked. All these questions are linked. The final thing, which I clearly don't have time to go into today, it's a seminar in its own sense, but is actually how that relates to online marketing. I find that with online marketing, so many people are obsessed with how many followers they've got. Let's get more followers, whatever term you use, friends, followers, etc. Everyone's different, but you know the principle. Excuse me. You see, I'm not impressed with your hundreds of thousands of followers, perhaps, if you're not actually turning them into fans, if you're not actually turning them into customers, clients, fans that are putting money in your till. Because otherwise you're spending a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of work creating this wonderful vanity metric. until that vanity metric of how many people like you, follow you, etc., turns into business, then you've got to question, what's the point? Think about your marketing, think about particularly your online marketing, and what are you doing to turn this, all this work to get new followers, how am I turning them into fans that actually become a part of my business? That's critical. As I say, that's something as a completely separate seminar, it's on its own, that obviously we would deal with. And then finally, the final question, are you doing it all consistently? That's it, basically. The secret to success, I call it. It's very simple. Successful people simply do the stuff that unsuccessful people don't. End of. Seriously, end of. That's it. And what is it that they do? They take action. Consistent action. Not action occasionally. Not action after a seminar. Not action after a webinar. Consistent action all the time. I have read, I've obsessed learning about successful people for years. I've been lucky enough to work with, to get to know some incredibly successful people, not just in our own industry, in other businesses and other industries. Yeah. Well, I'm absolutely convinced of this one thing, that the common factor that sits with every single successful business, successful person that I ever see, is they take action, they do things, and they do it consistently. They don't just have great ideas. They actually get on with it. They do it. They make it happen. And that's it. So the 5 questions that I'm asking you, that I'm asking you to ask yourself. And do you remember how we pitched this? Answers are great, but it's actually questions that make the point. You've got to ask the right question.
Alan, can you just go back a slide, please? Someone's just asked to see the slide before.
Yep.
Sorry, just to write it down. Thank you.
That one?
I think that was it.
Cool.
Someone put it on the chat.
Cool. So, effectively, when you're stopping and you're thinking about, what you're going to do and the action you're going to take, these questions they guide you. They point you in the right direction. As I said, answers are great. But it's if you ask the wrong questions, you get the wrong answer. And I think I used the example in the marketing for this, was saying, we've all put something into Google and got the wrong information back and gone, no, that's not what I wanted. Was that Google's fault? Or was that we asked the wrong question? Ask the wrong question, you get the wrong answers. And these 5 questions for me, you really do need to really be thinking about in everything you do. What makes you stand out from the crowd? Has to be the big one. It's why I spent so much time on it. Are you then delivering your promise 100%? Is your business financially viable? Because if it's not, we're doing all this work, all this great stuff, building a wonderful culture, but if you're not actually profitable, what's the point? Are you turning your followers into fans? Is your marketing structured in a different way? And finally, are you doing all of this consistently? Because if you're not, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen. Simply is not going to happen. End of. As you start to move on from here, some things you really need to think about from what we've talked about here. You need to know who you are. You really need to know where you're going. What do you want from your business? The question we didn't get into in this particular case, but is a big one, obviously, is why are you going there? And obviously, it's all very well knowing, where I'm going, but if you don't know where you're starting from, you still can't create your map. But finally, I think the big one for you is quite simply, what are you going to do to make it happen? Thank you for coming on this webinar, but this webinar isn't going to change a thing. It's only what you do with what you've learned from me and from all these other people over this last year, I hope, that will make the difference. It's the action that you now take as we shift our focus from short term to medium to long term. And we start to say, friggin' COVID is over as far as my business is concerned. It's not over. You know, I think that's the thing that's annoying me the most. People talking, oh, what about the third wave? It's like, are we still going to be saying that with the 10th wave or the 20th wave or the 300th wave? Because it's going to become like the flu, and vulnerable people will have a vaccine every year and so on. So the next wave is only an issue if vulnerable people are going to die. If that's not going to happen, then let's just get on with it. And in that case, then, you know, let's forget this last 12 months, learn from it and so on. But now let's really think forward to the future and what we're going to do. So I said that the last little bit of time here today, I just wanted to talk about how we can help you to do that. And effectively, you know, obviously, and some people here I know have done a lot of live programs and things like that. Although I don't want to be focused on this, we still don't know when we're going to be able to get back to live programs, training, things like that, and so on. So for the moment, we're focusing very much on what we can do in this climate and this environment right now to help you move your focus to the future. We have online business programs. We've been ahead of the curve on this for a long time. A lot of you know this. We've been doing online business programs and creating them for we've made all the mistakes and learned along the line, and we've got it there. I mean, lots of people have created programs in the last 12 months, of course, because they've had time to do it. And I'm sure they're very good, but trust us that we are so ahead of the curve with this. We really know how this works. Things like our calculators really add value. We have the Focus Hub. Some of you may know about the Focus Hub, some of you may not. Focus Hub is a great place where we have lots of things that you can access, like our fantastic hairdresser meetings. We do inspirational webinars there. And of course, we also have our licensed coaches. We have 11 fantastic hairdresser licensed coaches now. And they've been through their training, they've qualified, they're licensed. They're supported by us all the time. It's like a way to get the fantastic hairdresser and make it very accessible and to help you take action. One of the big things that the coaches do is they, you know, we mentioned it earlier, this consistent action. It's one of the big issues. One of the big issues is this consistent action in our industry more than ever. And what people find when they work with the coaches is that obviously they've got great information, great knowledge and everything else, but the best thing is the accountability. You know, who motivates the motivator? Who motivates you as the salon owner? And by the way, who makes you accountable? Who does your one-to-one? You know, well, that's what a coach does. You know, a coach doesn't have all the answers. What a coach does is make sure you're taking action, make sure you're doing the things you need to be doing, and so on. But at the same time, of course, because you know the fantastic hairdresser and you know what we bring, it's kind of like a line. It's like a line into the fantastic hairdresser, you know, all the time, and it's a connection you've got on an ongoing process, and that's the advantage of the coaches. Okay, so before all this lunacy happened, we created a product. We called it the ultimate salon growth formula. Now, that wasn't just a nice marketing term. We called it the ultimate salon growth formula because, for us, quite simply, it is the ultimate program because it pulls everything together, literally everything together. And if I show you, it has, first of all, a 16-week online program. Now, it's a 16-week program because that's how we structure it. And we suggest that you go through us with it. But you've got it forever. It's always there. You've always got it. Some of you may have done the Salon Profit Formula or had it in your Business Masters in the past and things like that and so on. We've moved on from there. As I said, we've learned our lessons and we've developed it and developed it and developed it. This is absolutely amazing. Within the program, there are webinars. Through that 16-week program, there's webinars with me to make sure everybody's on track. You get the calculators because it's part of the program. You need it. Also, you get as a membership of the Focus Hub. which means you get regular inspirational webinars on top of the ones that we do for the program, access to pre-prepared team meetings, which is the fantastic team meetings, and also access to other content that we provide and we put onto the Focus Hub. 3 months working with a fantastic hairdresser licensed coach is an optional extra that we recommend because it makes a massive difference. And people that take that on have really found they've got so much more out of the program by doing that. I'm just going to very quickly now show you, I'm just going to change my screen share. So just stay with me for a second. Sam, are you now seeing my browser?
I can now see your home screen, so the umbrellas.
Okay.
Yep, if you click on that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Lovely. Okay. So move that. This is the Focus Hub. You've got the fantastic team meetings for those of you that haven't seen them before and what they do. There's 20 pre-prepared team meetings here, right? 20 videos, team exercises, everything. They're split into different areas. If we just take, let's take build your column, and you click on there, there's 5 meetings there. Now, each meeting is between 40 minutes and an hour, depending on how much time you spend on it. You can come in here and say, we're going to choose, I'm going to do this meeting, give people solutions. So you click on that, and what you have here is, first of all, click on that, and it tells you what the aims and objectives of the meeting. Then you have a meeting plan, basically shows you what, how the meeting is going to run, video clips. Not going to play them all here, but you get the idea. There's me chattering away, exercises, other videos, and so on. Now, you've got 20 of those, right? 20 team meetings. Let's just go back. And you've got the calculators. These are our online calculators. There's a Salon Focus calculator. We use that to actually determine how much profit, what you need to take to decide any profit. So you put in information here, it tells you there. I'm not going to go through all this now. We haven't got time, but you get the idea. You've got Salon Drivers calculator, which is based on your average bill, your client count, and your visit frequency. Again, you can play around with this and say, okay, what do I need to get to achieve my goals? You've got an average bill calculator, which shows you how, what you need to change and increase to achieve your average bill goals. And then you've also got this one of my favorites, which is a stylist focus calculator, which kind of works along the principle of saying to a stylist, how much do you want to earn? And then they say, I want this much. You put it in, it says, right, well, you need to do this much, put this much in the till, make this many clients, this average bill, etc. It's a really great little tool. As I say, I'm moving fast here, but just giving you a quick little idea, a quick little feel of how it works. I'm not going to go through the other bits in this detail, but to show you, we've got a filing cabinet with lots of information in there, our TED Talk playlist, book club, etc. There's loads of different things in there. So that's the Focus Hub. I just want to show you now in here how this works. So this is the Ultimate Salon Growth Formula program. So we've got 16 weeks down the side here. And what's week 5? It's time for the numbers. Week 9, recruitment is dead. The magic motivator, leadership matrix. So it covers money, it covers finance, it covers strategy, it covers service, it covers leadership, motivation. It covers literally everything. It's the ultimate salon growth formula. So you've got all of that there. Again, just to give you an idea how it works, let's just choose this one. This is week 6. So there's different lessons and different things for you to work on, an action plan, and so on. So some of them are videos, some of them are just things to work through. This is a video.
Here we go. It's week 8. Wow. Do you need to? And then what does your average bill need to be?
Okay, so you get the idea, and so on. So that's kind of very briefly the program in that sense. So I'm just going to come back to where we were. Did that work, Sam? Thank you. All right, so now USGF as a program, then, as I've said, is what you're reading there. It starts on the 17th of May, and we've purposely done this to give some of you, particularly those in the UK, the time to get yourself into, get into the role of it, and start working through this. Get through the, clients coming back and sort yourself out. You've got about 6 weeks, which should give you in a place now where it's now time to, right, I had to think short term there. It's now time for me to start thinking long term. So 17th of May is when it all kicks off. Excuse me. The way it works is there are 2 levels effectively. When we used to charge about 5 grand for this when we were putting this in the first place, so before lockdown and COVID and everything else. My thoughts on discounting. I'm not a fan of discounting. We haven't discounted this. We've literally repriced it in recognition of the situation. So we've restructured it, we've repriced it. And the way it works is there's the basic level of the program, which gives you the program, the webinars, the calculators because you need them, and 3 months membership for the Focus Hub, which is 2,200. If you wanted to add the coach on for that, it's another 1,050, which brings it to 3,250. So how's this going to work? First of all, we're limited to just 10 places. There's only 10 salons that we're going to be running this for. Now, we are acutely aware of how you're all feeling at the moment, the situation, and so on. So yes, we've rebranded, we've repriced it, we've restructured it. But these 10 places, we've got something really interesting for you. We want you to get the best out of it. We want you to get the absolute best out of it. So just these first 10 places, we will pay for your coach. So effectively, you're going to get a coach for 3 months, a fantastic hairdresser coach for 3 months, completely free. We're going to cover that cost. The coaches still get paid. We'll pay them, but we'll pay it. Plus, we'll also give you 12 months of the Focus Hub. That's 12 months of the team meetings, everything. It's very simple. What it means is that what was 3,250 is now 2,2, the base price. You get everything. You get the lot. Yeah. So you get the online training program, the webinars, the calculators, the Focus Hub with everything there, and a coach working closely with you online for 3 months. And they'll make sure you make this happen, that you will take consistent action. Finally, and you know what, I'm going to be honest with you. All of us, all of our businesses have been affected. We have, of course we have. And we're trying to look at our business as we move forward in the future. We've got to, like you, we're all going to start, getting back to business. But at the same time, be understanding of where you are. So we're not a bank. We can't afford to do monthly payments for everybody. We need money in our till, same as everybody else. However, we equally understand that some of you may be thinking, this is so much what I need, but I don't have 2,200 right now. So this is what we're saying, quite simply. And I'm going to be frank with you. I'm going to be blunt. If you've got some cash around, because I do know that some businesses have because of the way it's structured and so on, and you want to do this, then take advantage of the 2,200 offer. It's a great offer. If you genuinely haven't, and you think, you know what, I really want to do this, but I don't have that cash, then we will do a 10-month monthly payment of £295. Yes, that means it's more expensive, but like I said, we're not a bank. You know, we can't afford to finance it. But if you have to take that option, look, we want to help you. We want you on board, but we're a business too. We've got to put money in the till just as much as anybody else has. How do you move on? Sam's going to send you a link. Follow that link, and the first 10 people that basically pay a £500 deposit, that's all you got to do now. The balance is due, I think, a week or so just before it starts. And you're in. And £500 deposit now, starts in May. You're getting all of that. I mean, it's worth thousands, but I don't want to do that type of sale on you. But it is worth a hell of a lot of money. Great opportunity, quite simply, for you to bounce back and build the future you deserve. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I hope you've enjoyed this session. I hope we've fulfilled what I said, and that was I was going to give you solid content, good content that you can use. And thank you for the 10 minutes at the end that allowed us to tell you a little bit about how we're structuring to come out of this in the way that we do things, which is to help you come out of it. And between us together, we can build strong futures.